Colleagues, we're going to start live streaming or streaming, so it's going to be a long night.
My tummy hurts. I ate too fast.
We're now live streaming. So I'd like to welcome everyone to our electronic council meeting on August 18th, 2021. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Regional Council is practicing physical distancing. I am present in the council chambers with Councillor Shantz. All other members are participating electronically. I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather virtually today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements, and their contributions to our community. What I have learned from walking with Indigenous people is that our relationship to the land is one of stewardship and not ownership. Colleagues, before I begin, I want to acknowledge some of the horrific scenes and terrific loss of life in Afghanistan. I recognize that for Waterloo Region residents, including some of our own staff, these images, videos, and developments bring out significant emotion. For the former residents of Afghanistan or those with family in the country, we are thinking of you and praying for the safety of your family members. I also want to extend thoughts to the veterans and families of service members who or are serving in Afghanistan. There is no doubt significant emotion in seeing the Taliban take control of that country. We will be watching and hoping for the successful evacuation of Canadians and families from Afghanistan, as well as the safety of the Canadian Special Forces deployed there. You are in our thoughts and prayers. I'll now call on the clerk to do roll call.
Chair Redman.
Present.
Councillor Armstrong.
Present.
Councillor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Erb.
Present.
Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Councillor Galloway.
Present.
Councillor Harris.
Present.
Councillor Jaworski.
Present.
Councillor Jowett.
Present.
Councillor Kiefer.
Present.
Councillor McGarry.
Present.
Councillor Nowak. Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Strickland. Councillor Verbanovic.
Here.
Got it.
Thank you, colleagues. I would now entertain a motion to reconvene in open session. Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Clark. Please use your voting icons, yes or no, and I will turn my eyes to Councillor Shantz. Oh, you're using your icon, okay. We are now in open session. That is carried. Thank you, colleagues. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair Redman. Yes, I would like to declare an indirect pecuniary conflict of interest on item CSD HOU 2118, the Rapid Housing Initiative 2 funding due to my employment with the YW.
Thank you very much. Duly noted, Councillor Clark. We have presentations, colleagues. The first one is Ian Klugman, Communitech Corporation, Bus Stay Safe Program. Welcome, Ian. You have the floor. Is Ian with us? Okay, so we're going to hold Ian's presentation in abeyance, and we are going to go to Dr. Wang for our COVID-19 update. Welcome, Dr. Wang. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Redman. Sorry, I think I'm having trouble with my video. Thank you, Chair Redman, and good evening, councillors. Kathy Prosh will project my slides. Thank you. If you could go to the next slide, please, Kathy. Okay. You may already be aware of the things that I'm going to highlight tonight, but I just thought because they were significant announcements from Dr. Moore yesterday, I would just highlight them for us all again. And if you have any questions, please let me know. So I'll start with the highlights of my presentation, and they are three. One, Ontario is to remain in step 3 of the reopening plan for now. 2, all individuals born in 2009 are now eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. And 3, the most vulnerable residents are now eligible for a 3rd dose to provide an extra layer of protection against the Delta variant. A complete 2-dose vaccine series provides strong protection against COVID-19 infection and severe outcomes. However, for some select populations, a 3rd dose may be required to provide sufficient protection based on a suboptimal or waning immune response to the vaccine and an increased risk of COVID-19 for these individuals. Next slide, please. So regarding step 3, yesterday, Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health announced Ontario will remain in step 3 for now. Our local rates at this time continue to remain relatively stable. Rates across Ontario are now rising. So, in our present situation, public health measures remain very important, combined with vaccines, to slow the spread of the Delta variant. It is important for everyone, including those who are fully vaccinated, to avoid closed spaces in crowded places, and to physically distance and wear masks in indoor settings or in crowded outdoor settings, and to stay at home and get tested if you develop symptoms. Next slide, please. So regarding some of the changes to vaccine eligibility, so effective today, individuals born in 2009, including those who have not yet turned 12, but will turn 12 by the end of this year, are now eligible for the 1st dose of COVID-19 vaccine in Ontario, and after their 1st dose, a 2nd dose as well. And they can get this vaccine anywhere that vaccine is available for the population in general. Families can visit pharmacies, participating family doctors, regional vaccination clinics, pop-up clinics, and the mobile bus. If you go to the next slide, please, Kathy, thank you. And regarding the 3rd dose for the most vulnerable residents, so as I mentioned, a complete 2-dose series provides strong protection against COVID-19 infection and severe outcomes. The data continues to show that. However, for some select populations, a 3rd dose may be required to provide sufficient protection because of a suboptimal or waning immune response to the vaccine. A 3rd dose is now permitted for specifically residents of high-risk congregate settings, including long-term care homes, higher risk licensed retirement homes, and First Nations elder care lodges, as well as individuals with very specific medical conditions, very high-risk conditions, which include transplant recipients, patients with hematological, or otherwise known as blood cancers, who are currently receiving active treatment, and recipients of a particular medication, which is an anti-CD20 agent. So specific categories of patients. Our vaccine task force will help promote this information among local healthcare providers and work with specialist providers to help vaccinate or offer this 3rd vaccine to the targeted groups. For example, eligible cancer patients, that is those with those hematological cancers on active treatment who are receiving treatment locally, will be contacted by the Grand River Regional Cancer Center within the next 2 weeks for consultation and third dose vaccination planning to support treatment. So we do recommend that these patients consult with their primary care or specialist provider to help determine the optimal time for them to receive their dose based on their treatment regimen. The task force will also work directly with high-risk congregate care settings such as long-term care and high-risk licensed retirement to provide on-site clinics for third doses to residents in these settings. So that was all from my presentation tonight. And I'm very pleased to let you know that Vickie Murray, our regional vaccine director, is also here for a vaccine rollout update.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. Welcome, Vickie. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair Redman, and thank you for inviting me to give a vaccine update at today's Regional Council meeting. I'm very glad to give this update on behalf of Deputy Chief Hilton. Yesterday afternoon, the provincial announcement has put into motion some changes for the vaccine rollout. We were very glad to see that the 11-year-olds born in 2009 are now able to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Our community pharmacies, primary care providers, the Pine Bush Clinic, and the Boardwalk Vaccine Clinic all welcomed these newly eligible 11-year-olds to get vaccinated today. We have seen an immediate positive turnout, and I'm very thankful to our community for embracing this opportunity so quickly. Also announced yesterday and discussed by Dr. Wang already were third doses for our most vulnerable patients in Waterloo Region in order to provide an extra layer of protection against the Delta variant. Our Region of Waterloo vaccine team is already working on plans to support this vaccination. We have started our outreach with long-term care and retirement homes to determine a combined process that supports the homes, the staff, and the residents. We are also working closely with Grand River Regional Cancer Center on support for cancer patients who may be eligible for a third dose. For those patients on active cancer treatment, proper timing for the vaccine dose with their cancer treatment dose is essential. And the team at the Cancer Center will be working to make sure that each eligible patient gets the information they need to be able to safely get their third dose. We encourage all transplant patients and recipients of the anti-CD20 agent. Most common example is a drug called rituximab, to connect with their oversight clinic or their care provider for safe administration of the third dose. Work is ongoing with healthcare providers and specialists who are engaged in this rollout to provide clients appropriate health counseling and to ensure the optimal scheduling of the vaccine administration as it relates to concurrent treatments or therapies. Third doses will be administered at regional vaccination clinics, family doctors' offices, or local participating pharmacies. If needed, we will set up additional pop-up clinics to be able to support these patients as well. Patients who are eligible for a third dose should receive an mRNA COVID-19 vaccine, either Pfizer or Moderna, and it should be the same product as their second dose, if at all possible. Our last mile work continues, and our region's vaccination rates continue to rise. Today, we were at 84.43% for first doses and 76.38% for second doses. Our vaccination rates are some of the best in the province, and we continue to work on outreach initiatives to increase vaccination. I'm fortunate to have support mining our data, and I would like to share some updates from today. Since early June, the number of first doses administered per day to Waterloo Region residents has been trending downward, which is expected, and we knew that was happening. However, recently, the trend has flattened at approximately 400 doses per day. I believe that this change in trend for first doses is reflective of our work on outreach. This week, we had our most successful bus visit yet, with 62 people being vaccinated, and most of these were first doses. Our initiatives to support home-based vaccination, workplace outreach, and mobile clinics across the region has been effective at changing our first dose trend. At this stage of the vaccine rollout, this is really something to celebrate. Updated data on the number of Region of Waterloo residents eligible for second doses is estimated around 28,000. At the moment, our trend is that approximately 5% of people eligible for a second dose get their second dose each day. If we do the math, it would bring us to less than 10,000 second doses outstanding by the end of September. But I would like to see this second dose speed up, and I really encourage people to get their second dose earlier. As vacation season winds down and back to school season is upon us, we hope to see more people at vaccine clinics, and in particular at our mall back to school vaccine pop-up clinics. Planning continues for these mall clinics, and I hope to have more updates on that later in the week. My shout out this week is to the Pine Bush Vaccine Clinic, where they were very excited to celebrate both a marriage proposal and a visit by Uncle Hans this week. We wish two Pine Bush Vaccine staff superstars, Jocelyn and Ryan, all the best. And we are very pleased to be a small part of their journey as they start their lives together. Pine Bush staff also enjoyed and appreciated the visit by Uncle Hans to get his vaccine and to celebrate the release of the 2021 Oktoberfest pin. It's been a busy week, and it's only Wednesday, but a very successful vaccine week so far. And I thank everyone for their support.
Thank you so much, Vickie. Great overview, some serious messages and a lot of joy there. I have to tell you that I did watch on the news and see the marriage proposal, and I got a little verklempt. It was really pretty touching. Lots of questions for Dr. Wang and for Vickie. Councillor Clark, you had your hand up and it went down. You're good? Okay. Councillor Galloway.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. First, before my questions, congratulations on the rate of vaccinations that we have now achieved well past the provincial average, as noted by Dr. Moore today on the CBC radio program, where he gave kudos to you guys for the rates that we have locally. We've surpassed all our neighboring PHUs in vaccination rates as well. And I think all the extra outreach, buses, pop-ups, and all that kind of work has really paid off. And with a very high amount of first doses that turn into second doses, hopefully, we're going to see the second doses crest very high as well. So congratulations for all the great work. And we've seen 2 clinics now close this week. And while that on the surface might seem counterintuitive, it's actually a good sign to be able to see some of our clinics starting to. The question I had, maybe for Dr. Wang, with the provincial announcement, I'm just a little confused. The third doses are for long-term care facilities, but also it lists higher risk licensed retirement homes. Is that as opposed to lower risk licensed retirement homes? How does one know whether or not it's a high risk licensed retirement home, or are all licensed retirement homes considered high risk versus the non-licensed retirement homes?
Dr. Wang?
Thanks for the question. Yes, that's the wording from the province. And yes, in general, people can name various homes for those that are older as a retirement home. And in this case, we are speaking of the licensed retirement homes, which are considered higher risk, and for whom we had along with our long-term care homes, prioritized vaccines first as well in the early rollout of our vaccine program. So it would be those homes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Galloway. Councillor Erb, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks again to Dr. Wang and to Ms. Murray and all of the A team for hitting out of the park again. You're doing great work on our behalf. One of the areas that are eligible for the third dose are high-risk congregate settings, and I'm wondering, nothing was mentioned about shelter care. And is that something that the region will have some input on or discussion if that's going to happen?
No, it's a very specific list as put out by the province in terms of eligibility at this time for a third dose. Now, the province, or the Chief Medical Officer of Health, I should say, has said that, he'll continue to monitor the data. They are awaiting some more data from expert bodies. And, as needed, he may recommend that it be offered to additional settings that may, have a need for this. So he is really wanting to base this on what the evidence is showing in terms of a need for these specific residents to have a third dose. Right now, what the data is showing is for the vast majority of people, two doses is very strong and adequate protection.
Councillor Erb?
And so if I may, Madam Chair, I'm assuming you're in regular contact with your colleagues around the province, including Dr. Moore, that if you saw this as a need, you would advocate for that to happen.
Yes, and there would generally also be some data from some immunological experts, for instance, that would point to there being a need, not only because the recipients may have suboptimal responses or waning responses to vaccine, but also because the environment would be very high risk. So for sure, if we were seeing additional groups that had also those conditions, then we would definitely be discussing with the Chief Medical Officer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erb. Councillor Kiefer?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Wang and Vickie, for the work to date and ongoing work, for that matter. I know I've asked the question before, but I'm just wondering, there's a lot of parents and grandparents out there that are really concerned about their children, and in particular the age bracket from 1 to 12 now, and I'm just wondering if the province has indicated anything more further or an update, because as we get closer to school starting again, the anxiety, of course, is on the upturn. So I was just wondering if you had any new information or more comments to make with regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kiefer. So at this time, it remains that we anticipate, that approval for these groups may come towards the end of this year or early next year. So, there will be a few months when, we won't be able to immunize them. And so the best protection really for these children are a combination of everyone around them being immunized, and also ensuring that there are some public health measures that remain in place, both overall in the community and in school settings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kiefer. I see no further questions. So on behalf of Council, I'd like to thank Dr. Wang and Vickie for all your hard work and the teams that stand behind you. And just to echo the shout out at CBC by Dr. Moore was well-deserved and very well placed. And I think he mentioned Dr. Wang at least twice in our community a couple times. So well done, team. Thank you very much. Colleagues, we have no petitions, No delegations. The minutes of the previous meetings, this is A through O on your agenda. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor McGarry. I see no questions. So could you please use your icons to vote yes or no? That is carried, colleagues. Thank you. You received electronically distributed council information package. Any questions or anything people want to highlight from the package? You will have received those as part of your minutes for tonight. I see none, so I would entertain a motion to go into committee of the whole to consider reports. Moved by Councillor Erb, seconded by Councillor Kiefer. Please use your icons to vote yes and no for the council to go into the committee of the whole. Thank you, colleagues. That is carried. First item are the finance reports. Could I have a motion to receive the finance reports? Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor McGarry. Any questions or comments? I'd ask you to use your icons to please vote yes or no on these reports. That is carried. Thank you, colleagues. There are committee reports. They're numbered 1 through 8. These are reports from the Committee of the Whole. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Bravanovich, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Any questions or comments? Please use your icons to vote yes and no. Or no. I guess you can't vote both, can you? That is carried. So now we will vote to approve a summary of the Committee of the Whole, June 1st, 2021. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor McGarry, seconded by Councillor Erb. Any discussions? Please use your icons to vote yes or no. That is carried. There is a closed committee, August the 10th, 2021 attached. Could I have a mover and a seconder for those that motion? Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Foxcroft. I see no discussion or questions. Could you use your icons to vote? That is carried. We have one item from closed committee, August 10th. It's that the Region of Waterloo approve and enter into a lease and extension and amending agreement with Her Majesty the Queen. And this has to do with 150 Main. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McGarry, seconded by Councillor Schatz. Please use your icons to vote yes or no. That is carried. Colleagues will now vote on items from a closed council meeting that was held earlier tonight. There's one motion to approve an agreement for an execution of documents pursuant to the Expropriation Act. Specifically, this has to do with a dispute that is now settled with Cadillac Fairview and Realty Holdings Incorporated. If I could have a mover, moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Jowett. Any questions or comments? Additionally, we have another important item before you vote, and that is the tentative memorandum of understanding with CUPE on behalf of the members of Local 1883 for a 3-year period. So it has been moved and seconded. Please use your icons to vote. That is carried, colleagues. We now have a report, a mid-year review from the Chief Administrative Officer, so I will call on Mr. Lochner.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I'll just say a few words and then our Chief Strategy Officer will take over. I remember back in September when we were at the airport looking forward to this year as to how we would manage with the pandemic and get through. And that was when Council took the decision to move beyond COVID, not only just try to get through it, but take the brave and bold steps to manage COVID and try to move our community forward so we're in a much better place as we come out. So under that direction and your guidance and your support, really pleased with what the team has managed to accomplish, really proud to be part of this team. And I'll turn it over to Ms. MacDonald to give you the presentation.
Welcome, Ms. MacDonald.
Great. Thank you. I'm pleased today to provide a brief overview of progress in achieving the region's 2021 plan in support of Council's vision and strategic mandate for the organization as outlined in the 2019 to 23 strategic plan. When the region developed its strategic plan at the end of 2019, we couldn't possibly have predicted what would come. But I think what we've learned over the last 18 months is that the strategy that the community helped us to develop and the priorities of thriving community, sustainable transportation, environment and climate action, and more are more important now than ever before. In developing the plan specifically for 2021, despite the uncertainty that had come with the global pandemic, we committed under Council's leadership to double down on that strategy. We also made unprecedented investments in strategic areas to drive transformational change and better support residents, not just today, but beyond COVID-19. This has been foundational work. Before I get into specifics and the progress that we have made, I want to be very clear about who we is. There is absolutely nothing we do as a region in isolation, and success is not possible without the contributions of many. So when I say we, and when I talk about our progress, I actually mean the broader community of Waterloo Region. I mean you as our leaders and council, I mean our staff, I mean our partner municipalities, I mean local businesses and associations, I mean our partners in the education and post-secondary sectors, and every single resident who lives in our communities. This is an important message and one that I will repeat whenever I talk about our progress. The region's strategic plan is not simply a strategic plan for the corporation of the region of Waterloo, but a shared roadmap for improving the lives of every single person who lives here. And that takes all of us working together. That said, I do want to acknowledge the incredible work of regional staff in supporting the community through the pandemic while continuing to make significant progress on achieving the goals in the strategic plan. I think at a time when many might be looking at deferring things, we have a lot to be proud of as a community and how far that we have come. The report outlines in significant detail much of the progress at this midpoint in the year. However, I will highlight a few accomplishments for us at this point. Things such as welcoming Flair Airlines and moving the airport expansion forward, the development of additional affordable housing units, supporting businesses with the launch of the COVID Safe Ambassador Program, advancing the regional official plan review, endorsing the Transform Waterloo Climate Action Strategy, moving Stage 2 ION forward, positive announcement on two-way all-day go, the establishment of a new equity, inclusion, and human rights team, and moving towards enhancements in equitable service delivery, creating a plan to leverage AI and automation to increase efficiency and improve service delivery at the region, collaborating with the YMCA on an employee insight survey with the YMCA, rolling out a COVID-19 vaccine. And this is on top of providing essential services for residents. Every time a resident turned on a tap, drove on a road, hopped on a bus, accessed housing or income supports, or put their kids in childcare, the region was there for them. I could continue on, but these are just some of the highlights of the work that has moved forward towards achieving the 2021 plan and our broader strategic plan guiding us up until 2023. While we have much progress to celebrate, this has not been without risks and challenges that we continue to work through as an organization and mitigate. Like organizations, the region is going through an organizational and cultural transformation, and we have very ambitious plans to enhance the way we provide information to you and to our community on our plans and our progress. And the way that we work directly with and alongside community to understand their needs and to better support them. I'm so pleased to introduce our new Director of Corporate Strategy and Performance, Jenny Smith. Jenny's here today, and you'll be hearing a lot from her in the coming weeks and months. Jenny's only a few weeks in and worked really collaboratively with the organization to produce this report. And I look forward to having you spend some more time with Jenny as she helps us on strategy and performance and improving the way that we're able to report to you and the community on the work that we're doing. I'll now hand it over to my colleague, Mr. Dyer, who will talk about our mid-year financial report and take it from here. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Dyer.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Through this report, we've, in addition to the update on strategic objectives as outlined by Ms. MacDonald, we've provided a mid-year financial update. You recall that we committed to providing quarterly updates to Council over the course of this year. I'm pleased to report that our review of expenditure and revenue to the end of June and making some hopefully reasonably accurate projections to the end of the year suggests we're headed for a relatively modest surplus, as has been our practice and results over the last few years. Overall, on the property tax budget and the water supply budget, both in positive territory. Shortfall on the wastewater revenue side, which is something that we have experienced over the last few years, but overall, netting everything together, appear to be heading towards a positive financial position at the end of the year. And that's due in part to the continued significant financial assistance provided by predominantly the provincial budget in this case, but also the provincial government, but also the federal government as well. And we've provided for Council's reference in Appendix B to the report our running list of the funding announcements that have been made since the region's budget for 2021 was approved back in January. And it's a significant and growing list and includes everything from the Safe Restart Fund to 100% provincial COVID money to funding through the Reaching Home initiative and the approval of funding for various operating departments as well as capital projects. We'll continue to keep that list updated as the year progresses. So from a revenue and expenditure perspective, on the revenue side, our airport revenues are up, obviously, with the increased traffic. Provincial Offences Act and Waste Management revenues generally on target. Transit revenue trending below our budget estimates for this year. But again, that will be offset by the Safe Restart Fund transit stream. And then a number of relatively minor expenditure savings in a number of areas ultimately contributes to our projection of the modest surplus for 2021. We've also noted in the report, you'll recall that Council amended the budget earlier this year for the vaccine distribution and rollout. We've provided that budget submission to the province. The province has provided a first round of funding, so we appear to be in very good shape there. And we've also provided in the report an overview of some of the major capital projects that are underway. I would say nothing too significant to report. The capital program continues to proceed over the course of this year. And then finally, from a recommendation perspective, a couple of items for Council to consider. One is we're proposing that we shift the funding of the strategic investments in business supports from the tax stabilization reserve to the 100% provincial funding provided by the province earlier this year. And then secondly, a couple of recommendations to amend the transit and transportation capital programs to reflect the award of tenders that has happened over the year so far. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dyer and Ms. MacDonald. A great sort of 1-2 setup here. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you. And through the chair, just some information. I was driving in Kitchener today and noticed packed LRTs. They were just really, really, people are getting on board, taking them. So I thought I'd give that, once we said, Greg, that you said we're down, I think you're going to see a huge recovery in this because I was really impressed. They weren't overly packed. They were social distancing, I think, but it was nice to see them so full.
Thank you, Councillor Foxton. So, colleagues, I don't see any other questions or comments. We have a recommendation before us. There's A, B, C, D parts. Mr. Dyer has outlined most of them, but it's the region of Waterloo. Take the following action with respect to the 2021 mid-year update as set out in the report that you've all got dated today. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Galloway, seconded by Councillor Jowett. Please use your voting icons to vote yes or no. Great update, Connie and Craig. That is carried. Thank you, colleagues. I have no report at this time. The clerk says he has no report, but we'll hold him to it. He'll have a report one of these days. Matters under the Committee of the Whole. The next item is a Rapid Housing Initiative number 2. And I would ask Mr. Douglas Bartholomew Saunders to introduce the report and allow for questions. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and through you. This is a very good news story in this report, and I'm happy to be bringing it forward. This is about the Rapid Housing Initiative Round 2. You'll recall we had Rapid Housing Initiative Round 1. Well, this is Round 2. We are receiving 11.2 million in the city stream. There will also be a project stream, not the very same as as Round 1, to which we'll be making a submission of housing proposals for further and additional funding. The requirements are essentially the same as Round 1. We're required to yield a minimum of 42 new units through the city stream. Construction must be completed within 12 months of signing agreements. There must be affordable units for vulnerable populations. We're not limited to modular construction, but we must meet all the construction and timing requirements, specifically that 12 months. As with Round 1, we will work with the area municipalities, service providers, and developers to identify sites, meet funding conditions, and the operating needs. Submissions are due to the CMHC by August 31st, with approvals 45 days thereafter for the city stream and in late 2021 for the project stream. The initiatives will fund projects that align with the region's 10-year housing and homelessness plan. Jennifer Murdoch-Martin is also with us this evening, and she'll be happy to take any questions that you have about the report or about the program itself.
Thank you very much. This is exciting news. It's so in line with the priorities and the investments that this council has made that reflect community priorities as well. Councillor Jowett.
Thank you, Chair Redman. This is so exciting to finally see us really hit some good numbers. Thank you, Douglas. I know you probably worked pretty hard on trying to make this happen along with your team. We've had some conversations around the Cambridge tables, and we're a little bit concerned that we don't have shovel ready in these tight timelines. And I know Mayor McGarry, Councillor McGarry, has been working very, very diligently with staff in Cambridge. So I'm just hoping that we can somehow quantify or chart a path that can help move things along in Cambridge, Douglas. I don't know what that looks like. I know Bruce and I talked a little bit about it, but does anybody have any ideas?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, we can't, we're not in a position to actually tip our hand at the moment, but I think you'll be I think what I can say is that there is some interest and potential development in Cambridge that we're looking at right now in the proposals that are coming forward. As I said, I don't think it would be inappropriate to tip our hand at this point. But the staff are aware of the issues related to Cambridge, and they are working with providers to address that. So stay tuned. We may have better answers for you shortly.
Councillor Jowett?
I really appreciate it. It's just because when you started doing the math and you could see that we're going to hit the ground running with 72 units and in Cambridge 6, and I know that there's a couple of things sitting on the table. Just Douglas, don't hesitate to reach out to Carl and Catherine and I, because the three of us have kind of pushed some elbows in Cambridge a few times, especially when it comes to some of these bigger issues. So please don't hesitate to let us know how we can help, okay?
Trust me, we know where you live.
Anything further, Councillor Jowett?
No, that's great. Thanks for the opportunity to chat about it.
Thank you. Councillor Erb.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and certainly more great news, and thanks to for the funding from the upper levels of government. And with this modified approval process and the deadline for construction, I think it just brings a whole new meaning to rapid housing. Like everything's just got to move along so fast. So hats off to staff and the work that they have to do in the next by the end of the month to get the applications in. And in conversation with Jennifer, I understand that some of the groups that may have not been successful in the most recent RFP are going to be eligible to apply. Plus, the staff have some ideas of people who they might be approaching in the community. And I'm wondering if Jennifer would just want to update council or Douglas on how that process unfolds and in such a rapid time.
Take it away, Jennifer.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Redman. Since we found out about the allocation in early July, the first step of our process was to reach out to all the projects that were part of Rapid Housing 1, check their availability, if they've made advancements in their project and they were still interested. And we also reached out to anybody who was in our most recent RFP, got them to a state of readiness to also apply and be added to this project. Then we did a great outreach to anybody who's been interested in an RFP process, and through the municipal leads table also sought out additional projects. So we did a wide sweep and sort of gathered some interesting projects and then vetted them from there against the filters of the program and construction readiness.
Thank you. And, this is sort of another one of these projects where a lot of stuff has to get put aside and you have to concentrate on this. So we understand the pressure that you're under, particularly during COVID and holiday season. So thanks for all the extra effort that you're putting in to meet these deadlines.
Thank you, Councillor Erb. Jennifer, did you want to add more? Okay. Thank you. Councillor Verbanovich.
Thanks very much, and thanks to both of you for your update and report. Just in terms of the first round, do we know how many projects weren't able to be funded through that first round? Like there were 2 that were funded that I recall. How many weren't able to be funded that submitted?
We submitted 9 projects through the project stream in Rapid Housing 1, and those 9 were not funded through Rapid Housing 1. So we've gone back to each of those 9 and have refiled those that are eligible and interested in continuing into Rapid Housing 2. So
if my understanding of the program rules is correct, those ones are the first ones to be prioritized, and it's only if you can't fill out your allocation with those that you can submit additional ones?
Correct. We have 9 spaces, so to speak, in the Rapid Housing 2 project stream. So if one of those projects is not able to proceed, we can replace it with a new project.
Right. And then there'll also be the non-city stream, and we can apply into that again as well, correct?
Sorry, those 9 projects are in the project stream, and
that's the project stream. Okay.
Yeah, the city stream is our actual direct allocation that is separate and distinct from the 9.
Okay, and those ones are you're taking applications for as well?
Correct.
Okay, so some you'll recommend as part of the cities, and the other piece. And will you at some point come back to council with the list, and so council's aware of it?
I defer to Douglas on that, but yes, we will have. It certainly will be the proponents that have applied will be informed of whether they're in city stream or project stream, and we can certainly include that in a next update back to council where each of the projects landed.
Yeah. Yes, I believe, through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Verbanovic, I believe we did that in round 1. We brought the final list through to council just to inform council of who was moving forward and who was being funded. So we will do the same thing this time around.
Yeah, no, I do recall that there were the 2 that got the money, but I guess I think from a transparency point of view, it's important that council is aware of the overall list and who all's applied and so on. I think the other thing that's important to remember, and this speaks to Councillor Jowett's question around the funding, the Rapid Housing Initiative right now probably has covered about a quarter, roughly, to a third of the overall money needed for to address homelessness across the country based on the National Housing Strategy. So the hope is that all of the political parties will make that a priority in the upcoming election, and without presupposing what the FCM platform is going to be on this and other issues, I think it's safe to say that homelessness and affordable housing will be a priority going forward in terms of putting that to all of the political parties in the upcoming federal election.
Thank you, Councillor Ravanovich. That was more of a statement, excuse me, than a question, right? We will be informed of who's on the list as this process rolls out.
Yep.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McGarry.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Thank you, Douglas, for an update, and thank you, Jennifer, for what you've been doing. And I did want to go back to comments that Councillor Jowett made at the beginning. And certainly we're very happy to have any affordable housing in the region of Waterloo. And as service system manager, we've been doing a good job at getting those projects in front. But I would note that 6 units in Cambridge versus many, many others in north of the 401 in Kitchener and Waterloo does worry our community, who actually has more encampments than probably the rest of Waterloo region at the moment. And so that we are looking for those projects. I also understand, Bartholomew Saunders, about the short time period. And I just wanted to really let you know that during our delegations at AMO, in the time that we're speaking with ministers and other cabinet members, and when we're talking to our federal partners, very recently our focus has been on that short window to apply for projects and the very tight timeline about when those projects are supposed to end. Because we all know that recently it's been a well-publicized issue that building materials have gone way up in cost. Mm-hmm. And the fact that now that many people are trying to get shovels in the ground, it's very difficult to retain a contractor in order to get it done. So my question to you would be, are you finding that the cost of construction right now and finding a contractor that can actually do that job wherever we are in Waterloo region is an issue right now in the way that the funding formula is rolling out?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm going to address the first part of your comment, and then I'm going to kick it over to Jennifer to speak to the costing. The staff team, and I must say we have an incredibly gifted staff team in housing services. They're working at a flat out rate to be able to meet the demands of all of these programs. And as you know, we've not only had the rapid housing initiatives, but we've had a number of other initiatives where they've been able to blend the pots of money to result in exponentially more units than the programs have actually called for. We may actually be able to do that with round 2 of Rapid Housing Initiative as well. But I won't share that information with you yet until Jennifer and Ryan and I have had a chance to actually work the numbers. I can also say to you that the team, I think, is tired of hearing me as a resident of Cambridge saying, remember, we need to put housing in Cambridge as well. And reminding them that we have 4 townships that over the last few years have regularly waved their hands and said, remember us, we may be smaller, but we also have needs for affordable housing. So the team does get kind of tired of hearing me say it. So I just want you to know that we haven't forgotten Cambridge or the 4 townships. As for the costing and the materials, I'll leave it to Jennifer to speak to that. She's actually the guru when it comes to putting shovels in the ground and nails into 2x4s. So I'll let Jennifer take over from here.
Jennifer, you seem to be getting all the hard questions tonight.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Redman, I would say, yes, we are finding the costings are significantly higher than they have been in the past. One of the benefits of the Rapid Housing Program is it is a 100% grant program, and they are looking for some equity or proponent contribution, but not to the same degree or that they would be in some of the other programs that we've been using, and even our own RFP. So we are putting in higher construction costs, but they're also being funded to that level. So the program will meet that. We may not be able to stretch as far with this round of funding. And as to trouble connecting with contractors to actually bid and give us a good solid estimate for the construction cost, some of these projects are ones that were already underway. So there's already some great relationships with local constructions and construction companies and firms and architects. So we're closer to having really accurate numbers with the projects that were particularly with RHI 1 or the RFP. And for the new projects, they already have some standing relationships that they're able to take advantage of. And everyone involved is really escalating their service to this project to make it happen, or to all the projects within Rapid Housing. Everybody is living the mantra of Rapid in this response to make any project that could be viable really, really under consideration.
Thank you so much. Councillor McGarry, any further comments or questions?
No, but I did really want to thank everybody that's working on this file. It's the #1 issue across all of our desks, and we certainly understand that we're trying to do everything we possibly can as area municipalities, because I know all the heads of council here are doing so in order to provide a streamlined approach or land or anything else we can do to try and get more units built and maintained. So thanks everyone for all you're doing.
Like you, Councillor McGarry, I was really thinking about our delegations at AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, that many of us were at this week. And I really do have to think that this kind of funding reflects the challenges that the federal and provincial government are facing, and the solutions are at the municipal level. So this partnership is great. It is great news. And we have the A team as far as staff goes working on this. So great news. So, colleagues, the recommendation before us is basically to authorize the Commissioner of Community Services to enter into an agreement with CMHC for Rapid Housing Initiative 2, as well as authorizing the Commissioner to submit the projects under this initiative in the context content satisfactory to the CAO. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McGarry, seconded by Councillor Pravanovich. Please use your icons to vote yes or no for this motion. That is carried. I'll now entertain a motion for the Committee of the Whole to rise and Council to resume. Could I have a moved by Councillor Kiefer, seconded by Councillor Shantz? All those in favor, please use your icons. And I guess if you don't want to move, you can use your no button. So it is moved the Committee of the Whole rise and Council resume. A motion to adopt the proceedings of the Committee of the Whole. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Please use your icons to vote yes or no. That is carried. So we have just moved that Council adopt the proceedings of the Committee of the Whole. No motions, but we are now at a notice of motion. So I would turn the chair over to Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair Redman. I'm going to ask for a seconder for your motion and then allow you to speak to the motion. So is there a seconder for Chair Redman's motion? Councillor McGarry.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Colleagues, the Region of Waterloo is committed to working with Indigenous communities to advance reconciliation, including working collaboratively with local municipalities on a municipal reconciliation plan. The region has heard from the community members that access to space for cultural and ceremonial space can be a barrier to practicing their cultural customs and traditions. In commemoration of the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, I bring forward a motion asking regional staff to report to Council in September on how the region could permanently waive facility rental fees in regional libraries and cultural facilities for First Nations, Métis, and Inuit community members for cultural and ceremonial use. Regional staff are available to work with Indigenous communities on how to access regional spaces for both cultural and ceremonial use on the 30th and beyond. Removing the cost for these facilities will hopefully make these spaces more accessible and support Indigenous people's right to practice. It will revitalize their culture, customs, and traditions. And this is outlined in the UN Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And the cities of Kitchener and Waterloo have already waived fees as part of our collaborative efforts towards reconciliation. So you have the motion written before you. I don't think I will read it again, but that is the rationale for bringing this forward. So thank you, and I look forward to your support.
Councillor McGarry, as a seconder, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I fully support this motion. I think that any opportunity that we have as a regional council to progress the reconciliation component of our Indigenous partners in our community is a good thing to do. So I fully support the motion, and I'm hoping that all of us can see clearly how we can move forward as a region and as area municipalities in order to support the reconciliation efforts. Thank you.
Councillor Urbanovic.
Thanks. I just wanted to thank Chair Redman for bringing this forward. I think it's another step, as she pointed out, in our collective journey of moving forward in terms of reconciliation. And, as was noted, this is something that Kitchener and Waterloo undertook last year as we were working with the representatives of Land Back Camp. And, I think ultimately it's these are small steps in our overall journey that will ultimately lead to healing and a more collaborative relationship within our community amongst everyone. So thank you.
Councillor Jaworski, your hand went up and down again.
Councillor Urbanovic covered it quite well. Congratulations and thank you, Chair Redman.
All right. I see no other hands, so I will call the vote. Please use your yes or no buttons.
I don't have one. I'm voting yes.
Or put your hand up if you don't have a button. And I believe that is carried unanimously. I will now turn the meeting back to Chair Redman.
Thank you so much, Councillor Clark, and thank you for the unanimous support. We'll now move on to unfinished business. I see none. Other business, is there any? Questions? I would now entertain a motion to enact the bylaws first, second, and third readings. And there's a list of A through F. If I could have a mover, Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Schatz. I see no questions, so please use your icons to vote yes or no. That is carried. So colleagues, I don't know how to break it to you, but we're now in a position for a motion to adjourn. Is there anybody that wants to adjourn? Councillor Harris. I see 2 hands up for Councillor Armstrong. And I see a no vote by Councillor Verbanovich. Could you please use your icons to vote yes and no? That is carried, colleagues. Thank you. Please be safe. Enjoy your evening and a great meeting.
Good night, everyone. A safe drive home, please.
Good night, everyone.